Hi, thank you very much. So we're down here on the west side, and you can see the site right next to the garage. The first thing we were talking about the section of Martinez. There's a train track, a parking lot, and then what we're talking about is an 8-foot wide bioswale, which would take water from the street instead of putting it into the sewer. And actually, both waters the plants there and allows percolation into the ground table and doesn't increase the load on the sewage plants. 2 lanes of traffic, parking, and then an 11-foot wide swale, which would be heavily planted. And then next to that would be a 12-foot mixed-use path. It would be a sidewalk where the idea is that you would be able to ride a bike so that people who aren't comfortable in the street, kids and stuff, could ride on that. 12 foot's a really, if you took like the bike path at Tiburon, if you've ever been up there, there's a really nice bike path. It's 12 foot wide, lots of kids, people walking. Then we have about a 10-foot setback to the building, again landscaped. So we're putting a lot of landscaping in, which doesn't exist there now, which would, really warms up a street, plants. I'm just going to go through a little bit with our strategy. This is actually what was on, that was the San Leandro Ball Works, it's industrial over there, and there's San Leandro. The first thing we're doing is we're using sloped roofs along the street where they're visible, and we've actually cut pieces out of the building. So you have like a gable, an entry lobby, a courtyard that goes on the 1-story, and that's about 70 foot wide. Then it goes down to 2-story, excuse me, 1-story, and that's 4 stories. And it's 2 stories, there's a gap. There's a 28-foot wide piece, and then another 28-foot wide piece with a little gap in between. So it really, our strategy is to really break it up in terms of massing. Then on top of that, we're proposing balconies and what we're calling porches. And we're also doing a painted base. It's a very traditional element where you make the bottom darker and it breaks the scale of the building up. So as you see along here, it's painted, and actually where the garage is, we're talking about doing that as a green screen. So it would be a metal mesh with plants on it, and that allows the garage to be ventilated where you don't see into the garage. But the only place the garage is visible is on the back, so you don't see that at all from Martinez. We also have what we're calling porches along Martinez, and what that is we bring units down to grade in front of the garage, so you don't have a garage as you walk along the street. And then we have a little entry patio, I guess you call it. Because of the ADA concerns, we're not raising those up because we have a 100% accessible building. But it makes a little sense of entry, and then above it is a deck. And I'll get off these, and you'll see more eye-level stuff. And then the next thing, what we're doing is we're breaking the building up with color. I'll get into more of the colors. And also, we have both stucco, and then we're going to have some board and batten. A lot of the industrial buildings that were there, they were corrugated metal, they were board and batten. We thought corrugated metal probably wasn't going to be the, we didn't try that one. But the board and batten is nice. But this shows we're using paint as a material to break this up into almost like a little village, as you describe it. So this is probably have less bumps, more chunks. It's broken up into pieces that are really the size of buildings in San Leandro. And this is a sketch that I was looking at that last time. I thought, well, you really got to understand the amount of landscaping and the setbacks. So then you kept saying, can we make it closer to the sidewalk? And I'm a big fan of adding a lot of landscaping next to streets. It's really good in many ways. You shade the pavement. You can absorb the stormwater. It just makes everything much nicer for the pedestrians, even for the drivers. So this shows the street and the road. There's this railroad track, a swale, another swale, the wide bike path, mixed-use path, and then landscaping next to that. Just those colors I showed you. Not all the colors, but most of the colors we're drawing them directly from the historic buildings in San Leandro. It's got a very nice, warm, earth-colored, earth-tone palette, and we have quite a few colors because it's something that we can think about, and it's a really good way to break up a building, and then this is a good way to fit it into the context using the colors in First Presbyterian Church and San Leandro and Casa Peralta. This is a plan showing, this is our 100-car garage. You go along Martinez, and our entry is next to the BART garage. So you drive in and out there. So there's no, the garage entry sort of around the corner. You don't have a garage entry beeping as you go by on the sidewalk. Then we have units here. We have 4 units that come down to the street level that have a little porch, and so that we put some people on the street. Along the Paseo, we have this 5,000 square foot program space, which is, what you mentioned, is possibly daycare, it could be something else. And then we have here, next to the lot, we have a bike area. So people coming home, if they're riding their bikes, instead of going, we have a nice bike area to store a lot of bikes. Bikes actually are smaller than cars, but they still, you have 100 units, you can have a couple hundred bikes. And actually, bicycle production has quadrupled since 1970, where car production has only doubled. Interesting fact. Okay, and then there's a little courtyard there, and that's our lobby entry space. We're really using the courtyard, an entry courtyard off the street into the transition. When you go upstairs, the units go around the courtyard. The courtyard would have trees on it. There's a laundry room on every floor there, and on the ground floor there's a community room. There's a lot of community activities in these buildings, both programmed and people using it for various things. The community rooms are used all the time. One of the aspects of this, we have a more active rail line along the back, and so we have it set back from the property line 23 foot for vibrational reasons, because the trains will actually vibrate the entire building, so that we set back more than would be required for light and air. And then we're taking a corridor along there, and I'll show you a little bit how we're addressing that so that the units don't face the train. Not only is it unpleasant to face a train, it's also, you get into very exotic window sections that are expensive, and it's unpleasant and expensive, so try not to do it. When you're upstairs on the podium, there's this is a 28 by 40 foot outdoor plaza area right outside the community room, and then there'll be a stair down to a community garden area, a community garden for the residents. So something we've been doing a lot recently is putting allotment gardens in. San Francisco during World War II raised 30% of its food in the city. I'm sure San Leandro did something so much of that. And I'm not a doom and gloom guy, but I think that being able to raise your own tomatoes is a really wonderful thing. I do it in the Mission. I had a really great tomato salad yesterday. Anyway, so you go down there, there'll be a little barbecue area and allotment gardens, and we'll try to have, typically when we do those, they're oversubscribed.